This is the Real Estate Power Play Podcast, getting you the information that you need to be a successful real estate investor. Hosted by Mark Monroe, Ronnie Walker, Gabe Rodarte, and me, Marty Grizzanti. Combined, we've done thousands of real estate transactions. So get ready for real stories and true case studies on finding deals, growing portfolios, and making money. Welcome to the show.
All right, guys, welcome to Real Estate Power Play this Tuesday. I appreciate y'all. We got Marty Grizzanti. We got Mark Monroe, the Godfather over there, and me. We got Ronald Walker. I'm your host today, and we're going to dive into what to do to find deals in 2022 and what that looks like, what we're currently doing to get deals all the way around. And so we want to take a real deep dive today. It's a question that I get frequently and have gotten recently. I know Marty, I know you're getting it, and Mark, I know that's the secret, right? Being able to find these deals. So how you guys doing? I haven't talked to you guys in a minute.
Mark, why don't you tell us where you've been?
Yeah, man, I want to hear it. I want to hear the juicy details.
I'm kind of beat up a little bit. I just got back from Cape Town. Man, that was I left actually last week, right after the last podcast there. We're live and that went out that night. God, it was coming back. It was brutal. It was in the air probably close to 20 hours, 19 and a half hours,
wow.
But it was good. I mean, a great time. You guys, I shared some photos there of you guys, and it was beautiful down there. And it's what was cool is today's the shortest day of the year, right? The 21st, isn't that correct?
Yep.
Down there in South Africa, it was the longest day of the year. It didn't get dark until almost 9:30, 9:45. And
isn't that crazy? Being on the other side of the world, it just throws you off,
Nuts.
That's so crazy.
Yeah. It was super, super cheap. I mean, I showed you some that we went to this vineyard that was a castle, and you saw the gardens. I mean, there's rose gardens, all the different gardens, and it was so cheap. So it was like for 7 glasses of wine plus a cheese platter I showed, it was like $28 a person. And awesome. When Clinton stayed there, this place was beautiful. And then it was super safe. It was Cape Town. We didn't get a chance to go to the Penguins because we were only there for a few days. She's actually gonna go see the Penguins and then shark diving. But highly recommend. Super cheap. She had a rib. I actually had an ostrich steak. And I don't know if I showed you the photos of that thing. That thing was huge. It was delicious. And she had a ribeye, and it was only $11 for the meal.
Wow. That's awesome.
That's freaking awesome.
Hey, Mark, did you sleep? Did you sleep on the flight back?
Oh, yeah. I slept about 6.5 hours.
Oh, you did? I know you're not a sleeper, so that's why I asked.
Yeah, well, I got a good seat on it, so.
That's good. Yeah, I saw that.
So anybody anybody who's watching, reach out to Mark to figure out where the right places to go are at Cape Town, because that's freaking awesome. Sorry, Marty, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, I was just saying, if you saw his picture, he was in the lay down seats, guys. So
yeah. So what's going on with you guys? What's going on? I'm sorry, Ronnie. Great call this morning, man. You got a good flow on there. A good job with it.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, we've been going live. I haven't been doing it every day, but I've been trying to do it multiple times a week. Going live. So it's been really good. It's fun doing the interaction. It's fun doing the live calls with people online, and so they can kind of ask questions through it. So I've been doing that, getting ready for the holiday. This is a great call because I literally just reset up our marketing. So I'm excited to dive deep into that.
Oh, good.
We rehoned some stuff. So I can talk a little bit about my thought process in doing that. I might not go into exact detail, but I'll explain kind of my thought process and what we're doing. So just a lot of work, man. We sent out, I was connecting with people today on wishing them Merry Christmas, and we're getting ready for the holiday. So Marty, what about you, man?
Yeah, we're doing good, boys. We got we have our upstate New York real estate investor meetup tomorrow, the 22nd. And I think we have about 50 confirmed people coming. So that's kind of a neat thing. And also, we actually just listed a flip last week, and we did well. I think like 30 over asking, which is great. So, but that's just kudos to our team and Matt and Amber and everybody that makes that thing, makes those houses shine. So yeah, so far so good.
Now,
I
Marty,
love it.
You do what once a week? You jump on here and do a live with a friend of yours. What's that? What do you guys talk about?
Yeah. Once a week, we, my buddy Ben and I, we do just a recap of kind of what we're seeing in the markets or what we're planning, what the plan is for 2022. It's really off the cuff. That's really nothing crazy. We want to make sure for people who are looking for some content that's maybe specific to Rochester or upstate New York, that they can get something like that. And yeah, we're having a lot of fun. We're just kind of going with the flow.
Nice. All right. So let's transition, guys. So 2022, finding deals. What's your guys' plan? What's the marketing look like, Marty, as you're getting ready to jump in? Why don't we start with you? What is that? What are you thinking? Where are you going? Where's the opportunity that you're seeing? Obviously, you just listed a deal that got 30 over. Like, unpack for me what you're looking for, bro.
Yeah, for us, it starts with, what were our goals for 2022, right? So we got some really big goals, and I want to make sure, I would like to tell everyone that you should write these things down. As you can see, I got mine right behind me, but yeah, so what do we want? Where do we want to be? And then kind of going backwards from there. So for 2022, finding deals for us is we're going to be tripling down on our cold calling campaigns with our sales reps. And so, we have 5 now that we are working with. We started with 1, right? So people thinking, well, how do I do this? Well, you do it yourself first so that you know what you're doing, and then you can kind of hire from there. But yeah, so we have 5 calling. We want to go hard on the phone calls. So, and we really are excited about our boutique lists that we're pulling. Again, list source, prop stream, guys, those are all things you can find lists. But also we're utilizing a service, REI Sift, which is a really, guys, if you guys have a little bit more of a robust marketing campaign, maybe you've done this a couple times, maybe a couple years where you've been putting money into marketing, this is a nice way of kind of cleaning your list, making sure that you're really squeezing every last drop out of it. So yeah, those are things that we're really pushing forward, which is going to be high call volume for our 2022.
So heavy seller direct, high cold calling, making sure we're getting, depending on how many you're getting, I mean, that's a lot of cold calling, right? And being able to push that through. So that's awesome. So Mark, where's your focus for 2022, man? I know you take a little bit different approach. You're not necessarily doing heavy seller direct marketing. Unpack for us how you're, doing your system.
Marty, by the way, great stuff there. One thing you did say there, and I just want to piggyback off of, do it yourself first. I think you should peel that back just briefly. I think we should just touch on that briefly for a second, because I've seen a lot of people start out in real estate and they don't know what they're doing, and they're hiring VAs or the people doing certain tasks. You always want to do it your first, so you understand the process and actually understand it. And I think that's just like a little nugget there, if you will. That's great stuff on that, Marty.
Well, we learned that the hard way, right? So we hired before we were probably capable to, and you put people at you're just not doing them justice. You're not doing a good job for your staff. And guys, a VA is a human being, by the way, right? So someone that's calling for you, these are real people. They have real feelings. They're really trying to be good at what they're doing. But if you don't have an idea or a roadmap or what it is that they need to accomplish, you're setting yourself up for failure. You're going to set up your VA for failure. So you got to do it yourself to figure it out first.
So a little bit about my strategy. My strategy is totally different than what you guys do, and I love your strategy. Mine, I really don't do marketing. I do marketing for buyers, for the retail buyer, if you will. But to find deals in this topic, I really don't do a lot. What I do is I network, and I work with bird dogs, and I probably have 350, 400 bird dogs out there that just that I work with, and they bring deals to me. A bird dog could be the trash man. I have some trash men that bring me some deals. They actually know the neighborhood, and they'll refer the deal over to me. That's really where most of my deals come from. It's just constantly networking. I'm always building my network. If I see people, hey, you know what? If you find something, you need some help. One of my bird dogs, this year, he's feed me probably, I don't know how many deals, probably about 12 deals. And what he does, he works for the state, and he we'll go pick up some people that can't drive and bring them to the doctor, you know, a doctor, physician, you know, anything like that. And he just drives people and he has conversations. And some of these people, you know, they're getting to the point where a situation, we picked up a deal back in August. The husband and wife, you know, they're older, they're drinking, and you know, the wife fell down the stairs and, you know, she passed, and he couldn't take care of the home anymore. So we end up getting a deal that way, and it worked out well for him that way. So there's different ways. That's kind of really, you know, the networking. I'm a big networking guy, and I really like that. You know, for goals, I'm not a big goal guy. I kind of mentioned that, you know, we talked a little bit about jumping in. I don't like goals. I think if you're a person that love goals and you write them down and go for it, I love it. You know, my past businesses, I had a partner, and he always would set goals, and these goals were so unrealistic, and it demoralized the team, and it made everybody feel kind of like a loser, like, you know, we were not achieving our goals. So it kind of backfired, if you will. So if you're doing goals, and and there's nothing wrong with it, it just put a bad taste in my mouth. But I think goals are great for people if you achieve your goals, and they're realistic goals. But I know, you know, Cardone there, you know, the 10X book, you know, takes your goals and times 10. Hey, that's great. I've seen some people. So and I think it's great for goals for people. I know what I want, but I don't put it in writing. I just kind of achieve, like, okay, this is what my target is. I want this much more passive income this year, that type of thing. That's kind of what my goal is, passive income. And then also to do a few more land development deals. That's kind of where my target goal is. But, you know, I don't die hard and I don't live by it. It just kind of becomes a lifestyle, like a diet, if you will, or a workout. So those are kind of my things. A little bit talking about, you know, bird dogs and networking. If you guys want me to dive into that a little bit more, I'd be happy
There's
to.
there's a question here. He says, Mark, do you buy in the whole country or only in certain areas? And guys, just as a before you answer that, Mark, like, he has helped so many wholesalers, not just bird dogs in the area, but wholesalers, people who are in the industry with lease option, with creative financing. Um, Seriously, if you guys have a deal in his areas, which I'll get here in a second, reach out to him, connect. I know there's a way for people to connect with you as well, but he's helped a lot of people. I know each of us have, but Mark is really that's how he's run his business, and he's done it for a number of years, and he's very good at it. So, Mark, you
Appreciate
want
it.
to answer that question?
Yeah, appreciate it. Yes, I do it everywhere in the country. Like California and New York, I'll look at it and kind of see what kind of deal it is. I don't want to hold in those states, but I will look at if I can get in and out of a deal pretty easy. You know, just because they're not landlord friendly, and I don't. And Marty, I mean, you're in New York, you get that, so I give you kudos to that. But yeah, I appreciate it. And yeah, just I do a lot of you know, newbies investors, you know, mentor them, work with them, and we just JV. I don't charge anything up front. We just make money on deals. You know, I'll tell you what to do, how to go find the deal, you bring it in, and we'll just go through it, and I'll walk you through it step by step. And you know, that's kind of how we learn the process of it. And I know you guys do the same thing. Ronnie, you do a lot of JVing yourself. But I think, Ronnie, let's jump over to you. Let's talk a little bit about your marketing strategies and what your goals and what you're trying to do for this upcoming year.
Yeah, and again, guys, it's he's all over. So it depends on the area, and dig in, and we'll go from there. As far as me for 2022, I really have a three-pronged approach at the moment. So it's seller direct, which I can unpack. I am filtering and working with wholesalers. We're starting to flip, and I just brought on a guy. Actually, my brother, he's been developing and doing construction for 10 years. He's moving to Michigan, so we're going to be doing more flips. But we do seller direct marketing. We're going to be working with more wholesalers because we're going to be taking on a select amount of stuff in the Michigan area. Realtors that are locally, we're starting to develop some relationships with and getting deals from. But as far as the main stuff that a lot of people want, they want to know kind of the seller direct, right? Like, what does that look like? And really, we're ramping up cold calling. We just launched text messaging again. And then we have a strategic direct mail approach on our stuff. And so that's kind of our next thing, is to systemize that. So and then that's majority for our cash business, right? Our cash side, and then we pull owner financing. and want to rebuild a portfolio. I think a lot of people know I just sold a big portfolio not too long ago. So to kind of rebuild a portfolio with a renewed focus. And then another aspect that I'm doing with the live calls and with different stuff is if people are having a hard time converting seller finance deals, I'll actually jump in and work the leads, and we can work on partnering and coming up with a plan. So I'm doing that as well. So that's a lot of the renewed focus for this year is relationships, seller direct, and working with people who are wholesaling or investing, and it's not a good fit. I'd love to do one new build this year. I don't know what that looks like. I've never done one from the ground up, but my brother is really good, so I'd love to be able to say, hey, I've built a house from the ground up. I think it'd be awesome. So that's what we're looking at accomplishing this year. I'm pretty excited about it from there. So what else do you guys got?
I think we should jump into seller direct. Both of you guys do seller direct. I think we should peel that back and kind of dive into that a little bit about that. What kind of list you pull, where you pull it from. Let's kind of go into that a little bit more.
Well, that's what I was just gonna say to Ronnie, because he was talking about he's got his three-pronged approach, and he said he could dig into it. So Ronnie, if you could dig into a little bit about your approach there.
So what I'd recommend is I use a data management software. And what a data management software does, actually, Marty mentioned it. I use REI Sift. The owner over there, Tyler Austin, has put together a really good product, right? Like it's a really good product, and he's got a ton of training on how to use it if you're not familiar with data management. Okay, so buy all his crap and learn it if you're not familiar. I don't get anything from that. I don't even know him personally, but buy all his stuff. It's really good. And basically what it is you're taking your lists, right? So you're going into an area, and then you're taking the list. You can buy high equity, unknown equity, free and clear properties from whatever area you're doing, and you layer the lists into a data management software. So let's say for instance, let's say you're in, I don't know, let's say you're in Phoenix, Arizona. That's not a bad area. I'm not going to say that because that's super hot. But let's say you're in Las Vegas, right? Or Idaho, or wherever your local market is, wherever you want to invest. You pull the list, and then you load it in the data management software, and then you go out and you find boutique lists, right? You find probates, you find foreclosures, you find tax delinquencies, you find that which can be found on PropStream. You can go to your local county, you can go to those different areas, and when you do that, you load them into the list, and you get to see all the stacked data. So that's what we're doing. We're stacking it, then we're skip tracing it, and then we're hitting them and basically doing kind of a conveyor belt approach, right? Calling them, cold calls. All right, who didn't respond? Okay, we're texting them, seeing who's responding. Okay, who didn't respond from there? After we've hit those, direct mailing. And we're kind of doing that approach that where we're hitting people on their different channels, and we're kind of trying to maximize that, to maximize those opportunities and those leads, starting with cold calling, text messaging, and then direct mail as we kind of peel back. And then from there, the goal really is to dial in the marketing, right? Is to say, okay, I want to focus on this area, or hey, I want more leads. And so I can do a little bit more. I can hire one more cold caller. I can hire two more cold callers. And that's really the way we're unpacking it from a seller direct. And then the more that we're talking, and I think a lot of people underestimate this, and Marty, me and you've talked about this, jump on the phone and talk to these people, right? Do the stuff yourself, cold call, because the more that we talk, the better we get at talking to sellers, and the better we get at handling these situations, which makes your conversations with realtors go better, right? When you're talking to them and they want to list a property that you might flip, right? And you're like, okay, well, can we work together and bring in deals? It'll help you help people in your local market to JV, and you'll know the things to talk about. A lot of people just want to outsource it all, right? Like, don't do any work. And it's like, well, if you don't do any work, what value do you have? And so I highly recommend to jump in and go from there. So that's kind of how I'm layering that system there to do the marketing directly, because seller direct that's where the cheapest deals are, right? Like, and the reason is you're offering so much value to off market, direct to seller. There's no middle person. And all of that, if you can work directly with them, that's where you get the biggest bang for the buck.
I think, Marty, you do seller direct. Why don't you dive into yours and peel that back a little bit and let everybody know how your system works?
Well, thank God for Ronnie, because we changed up and follow really that same thing. And it's been such a helpful tool, REI Sift. And just like Ronnie said, you can go and watch everything. They really dial it in, and I can understand it. So that's great. And, but like Ronnie was saying, if that's something that you're not ready for, right? So maybe if we're kind of going, let's talk to the 101, 102, 103 kind of folks here. Well, what you want to do is you want to start with a list of sorts. And so if I could say, if someone goes, Marty, what can I do right now? Well, what I would do is I would go to ListSource and pull a high equity list, absentee, right? So high equity, absentee owner, and really go on YouTube. They'll tell you exactly, but that's the list I would pull right now for 2022 if you're new. And I would skip trace it using a REI skip trace, or one of the skip tracing companies. You can find them there, PropStream, whatever. You'll get it from wherever. And then I would start calling yourself those leads. And why is two reasons. Number one is that you're going to start talking to sellers, and it's going to start getting you the lingo. You'll start learning, and you'll start getting stories, because what we want to do is use these stories to sell to that next person. So they might not work with you, but you'll get their story and you'll get their pain points. And then you can start asking questions like, hey, I talked to this person at 123 Main Street. And, one of their issues, Mark, was that they can't take care of the place anymore. They're 75 and they just don't want to go and mow the lawn anymore. Is that same with you? Well, actually it is. I'm getting up there in age, and I'm getting kind of tired here. Awesome. So that's how you start the conversation, right? Now you got the conversation going. And and those really are great deals for not just cash offers, but that's how you get a sell. For us here at Upstate Home Buyers, that's how we get a lot of our seller finance deals, is through a landlord, right? So those landlords are more willing to go, hey, yeah, I'll be the bank, and I'll take a little down here, but I still want that monthly check. Ronnie, it's funny, when I was working with Mark, one of his big things, because this is what we do every day when we do seller finance deals, one of his big things is he wanted that monthly check. Is that important to you? Yeah, it's still important to me. Or not really. I'll take the cash. Or so you just start getting used to asking the questions and getting in that mode. But yeah, that's what I would do if I were you guys right now and you're brand new. Pull the list and start calling yourself.
The funny thing that reminds me of, and I love that you say that, because so back in 2014, I used to have the thing of, I want all the leads filtered, so I'm just talking to the hot leads, right? Like I used to take that approach. Like, I just want to talk to the hot leads, and there's value to that. But when you're getting started, one of the things that I wish I would have done is I started calling the hot leads. I started filtering them and calling them, and be like, dang, that was a good lead, and I blew it. It's like, crap, that was another dude. That dude just made $40,000 on the dude I talked to 2 weeks before him, right? And what happened is I started calling people and I started working with them, and it just I wasn't sharp. And so what I started doing is saying, hey, you know what? On these cold call stuff, when I jump in, I want to be sharp. And what better way to do that than for us to jump in and be sharp on the hardest deals? And so I highly recommend that. The more reps you can get in with the harder people, the better you're going to build stuff up. Like build courage in yourself, right? And build up your own repertoire of your script, how you talk to people, how you engage. And it's going to take away that fear. Marty, you said to us the other day, like, action is the cure for fear. You know what I'm saying? And it's like, that's what you want to do. So hi, dude, I love that you share that, because I think it's so underestimated. And so
I have a couple tips on that. You're saying that, when you got into it and you kind of blew the lead. I always recommend with people, what you should do is when you're first getting into the business is jump into Zillow and call for sale by owners. Those are free leads. They don't cost you anything. Highly recommend that. And I also recommend, before you start making sales calls for the day, just like a pro athletes, they're getting out there warming up, throwing a football around, basketball around, call Buddy, call somebody up and just shoot the shit with them and warm up a little bit and just kind of open that up. That works really well. I have a question for both of you guys. You guys kind of went in there pulling the data list, the non-owner occupies and stuff like that. Can you guys kind of give everybody a little bit of an idea of like what the cost on something like that would be? How about you, Marty?
So depending on how many leads there are, right? Depending on what your demographic, like what you're going after. But I can say this. So there's a couple different services like PropStream where if you're getting a link through, and I don't know if Ronnie, you have one or I don't, but there's like Max Maxwell or people have like, you get a free week of PropStream where you can go there and actually, I believe, pull the list. You can pull a list for free. Don't quote me on that, but yeah, you're going to want a couple $100. Okay. And, but it's called investing. All right. So if you got to drive some Uber for a little while to get some money in order to do that, that's what you got to do. But yeah, I mean, we spend quite a bit now at this point. Right. But when we first started, it might have been a couple $100, but yeah, that's a tough question for me. I don't really know.
Yeah. When you start off with skip tracing and calling, depending on how much you do, the cost varies. So for instance, you can go to YellowLettersHQ.com and you can get a subscription for $97 a month. And you can, if you do that, they'll set you up a list source account. Okay. And that list source account, the reason why this is key is it'll take you from 20 cents a lead, like a lead when you buy it, down to 3 cents, right? So something that you would have spent thousands of dollars to buy, you're now able to buy for a couple $100. Okay. I wish I would have known about that years ago because I spent thousands of dollars on list source. And then I found out you could do 3 cents a lead and it's way cheaper. So that's what you have. You have 3 cents a lead from a list source list. Then you have your monthly subscription for like say PropStream and what you pull from there. And they have different layering costs, right? So obviously you can do the free, but then you have like X amount allows you to pull X amount leads. It goes up $250 a month if you pull blank leads. It goes up to like $500 a month if you pull blank leads, right? And it's all based on the amount that you save and then you export is kind of how a lot of these services work. It's like how much you can save, how much you can export, depending on the monthly cost, right? Then the cost you have on top of that is your skip tracing cost, okay? And the skip tracing cost usually starts out around 15 cents a skip trace, and it'll scale down to 12 cents depending on volume. Okay. So if you go in and you skip trace 40,000 leads, let's just say, right, to jump into cold calling or whatever, right, you're talking a couple grand, right, to get your initial list. And then from there, you're either cold calling it yourself, which you don't have a cost other than whatever a dialer is, or if you just use your cell phone, or whatever the cold callers cost or the text messaging software or whatever that is. So if you're going to go into text messaging and do that, that's kind of what you can expect from a cost. However, if you don't have that, this is what I recommend. I recommend doing driving for dollars. Okay. If you're going to go seller direct, and what this looks like, get in your car, find the neighborhoods. You can go to realtor.com, type in your area, find the neighborhoods and the price point, find one of the middle to lower price point neighborhoods. Okay. Figure out where that's at, pull the map, and drive through the neighborhood and get an app called Deal Machine. All right. I did this for a number of years. I don't do it so much anymore. I should, but I don't do it as much anymore. Find an app called Deal Machine and then drive the neighborhood. And then any property you see, just take your phone, boom, snap a picture of it. And it's going to give you the seller's name. It's going to give you all the details, and you can skip trace that lead right there. And you can send a direct mail piece right there. So if you don't have much money, that app is like $30 a month or something. I don't remember. Do that. Do 70 leads a week. Do 70 leads a week. That's you can do that. You can drive around and get 70 leads a week in that app. Anything that looks run down, anything that looks abandoned, anything that doesn't have curtains on the inside, the doorknob's missing, there's a lock on the door, there's broken down junk cars, the driveway's high, it hasn't been snow plowed after it snowed. The garbage in the front door on the trash days, there's no garbage out. Like there's lots of little tricks to show that it's a vacant property. Take a picture, send a postcard, find out the name, skip trace them right there on the app and call them. 70 a week. If you do 70 a week, you should have a deal in the first 2 months. And the deal will be a fairly good, it'll probably be, if it's a wholesale deal, it'll probably be between $10,000 and $30,000.
This is one of the techniques when I mentor people that are just starting into real estate. That is one of the things that I always, driving for dollars is one of the greatest things, and that app works really well. What other like if they find a good property, let's dial into that a little bit, especially for new people about driving for dollars. Like, what if they can't find a homeowner? What do you guys suggest on something like that? Ronnie.
Yeah. So if you can't find the homeowner, there's a couple different things you can do. One, send a direct mail piece, right? If you send a direct mail piece, it's got the best opportunity of being forwarded and find them, but sometimes that doesn't work. Sometimes it gets returned. So if you skip trace them, if you look them up on public record, find out who the owner is. What I did, and actually I still do this, not at the scale I used to, and I'm thinking about getting a VA to do this more often, but if you can't find the owner and you've called them, you send them a direct mail piece, and you're keeping track of your list in a good way, whether it's Excel or whatever. The next thing to do, go to Facebook. This is legit. Do this. Go to Facebook, type in their name and parentheses the city that the house is in, name, city. And then it's going to pop up everybody in that city with that name. And then you're going to friend request them and send them a message. Their message will go hidden if you don't friend request them. If you friend request them, it'll show up. So you friend request them, you send them a message, and the message says something like, "Hey, John Smith," whatever their name is. "I'm looking for the person who owns address owned by your name, John Smith." Again, would you be able to help me? Or, "I'm looking to potentially buy that property. Are you the right person?" And go through everybody that way. If you can't find them, the direct mail piece gets returned or whatever. And that's a way. And if you find them that way, it's a really in-depth, crazy hard to systemize process. And that is not a bad thing. That's a good thing for the people who can do that, because the deals are higher, because that means nobody else can get a hold of that person. You're being a ninja and you're finding this person. You're saying, "Y'all want to buy your property," and they don't have all the options, right? They might have been sitting there for a while. They might not be thinking about it. So that's what I would do if you can't find them. The other thing to do that's a little bit easier, skip trace them through multiple services, right? Use this, go to batch, go to another, because there's like 3 main skip tracing. There's 3 main systems that all the skip tracing platforms can tap into, and they don't all use all of them, right? Like batch might use 2, and then this other one might use the 3rd one. So do multiple skip tracing systems.
Now, you mentioned before you also have used is it Upwork, somebody to kind of help you skip trace before? How's that?
Yeah, so Upwork is hiring a virtual assistant. So years ago, I found about Upwork, and what I did is I went and found someone who could help me in my business. And Mark and Marty, I know both of you guys do this. But basically what that looks like is you're hiring a virtual assistant to do tasks. Where that can be really, really beneficial is if you're trying to find like an LLC owner, or you're trying to really track down. That takes more than just a quick search. You can hire somebody that actually is basically a private investigator online and goes around and finds them. You can do that. It's a little bit more expensive. And I would recommend potentially doing that on super highly targeted lists, right? Whether that's foreclosure or something that's a massive value.
So
I would go back. I'm sorry. I'd go back and listen to that whole thing again. You know, if you're brand new, wow. First off, starting with what Mark said, the free leads, doing the for sale by owner. I think a lot of people totally missed that. Totally missed that. There's so many leads on Zillow right now that are for sale by owner, that just to get your kind of, your tongue going, talking on the phone. That's number one. And you might get a deal, which is great. But listen to what Ronnie said about that whole, if I would have known that my first years, in this business. Who knows what we could have done, but absolutely to double down on the Facebook, that's another step that a lot of people won't do because it's pretty intimate when you're going and doing that. First off, you're putting your name and face everywhere right there with that person. But I've gotten one of our best deals by doing that. And it was just as easy as, hey, would you sell it? Yep, I would. And boom, bang, boom. And no one ever talked with them. They go, yeah, no one's ever reached out, but I've been wanting to sell this. It's been vacant for 2 years. So little things that people don't do or don't want to do is how you can start to really push yourself and separate yourself from the competition. So that was awesome, guys.
So Mark, if someone's jumping in, and let's say they don't have a budget and they want to do networking, right? They want to start connecting with people, because that's another aspect, right? Where you can JV and you can make money on that side. I know you've done a lot of that. Like, where would they start if they're like, you know what, I don't want to go seller direct. I would rather connect with other investors and JV. How would someone start into that? Like, why would they do that, and how would they get into that?
Well, one of the things I just want to put out there real quick, like when you start networking with other investors and wholesalers in some of these groups, be careful of what we call as a daisy chain. I can't tell you how many times I start working with somebody and they said, oh, I got this deal from, a partner or another wholesaler or another investor. And that person is not the end person dealing with a seller at the end. So I've been there where there'd be like 4 people in the middle and I'm asking questions because I want to buy the property and I can't even get the right answer because everybody's like, oh, I got a partner. So just be careful of that. Like if you're going to work with somebody, make sure that they're working directly with the seller. Usually when they say my partner, that usually throws a red flag up, which I don't mind long as I know the right answers. But I just get out there and network. I go into some of the groups and I look at, people may have a question and I help them answer the questions. I know both of you guys, I know you've done that before, Ronnie, as well. That's worked really well. I just like networking, even locally in your local market, talk to, your delivery guys. I think I might mention that Amazon, Comcast, the waste management gentleman. Believe it or not, I network with a lot of realtors. One of my every day, especially on land, my VA sends out 20 messages a day that are on one of the MLS websites, telling them what my criteria is. Because, the way I buy it, I don't have to necessarily buy it at a discount as wholesaling. I can also buy it through creative financing. And when I do creative financing, I can give them close to 100% market value. Also Zillow. I get a lot of lease options through Zillow. Sellers that, like you mentioned, they're not desperate to sell, but they love that monthly cash. They want to diversify. They don't want to put all that money in the market. So I can set up a way where they are getting passive income. The seller's getting passive income for years, and they like that. It's just like another Social Security check coming in, if you will. I look at areas where people are downsizing. The children's kind of move out. Those type of situations, going off to college. Just think. I always tell people, don't follow what everybody else is doing. Think differently. If it's all about marketing, you may come up with a way that I may not even thought of. Another way how I've gotten deals and I worked with people, and believe it or not, is hospice nurses. It's a sad situation, but I've had hospice nurses send me some deals that way. Just networking through different sources. A funeral home director. There's another way that's referred businesses over, me being in Florida and the children live up north, coming that way. And then just talking to other investors, people that want to get into business, people that specialize in, I have a tool belt, if you will. I learned this, through, some of my masterminds we're talking about. So I'll listen to the seller, and just, depending on the seller's needs, I'll pull out a different strategy of what tool I'm going to take down. Is it going to be a wholesale? Is it going to be a seller financing? Is it going to be a lease option? And then listen to them, kind of going down that path. Hopefully that answered your question there, Ronnie.
Yeah, I think that's amazing. And especially the tool and the tool belt thing when you're talking to people is you might pitch thing like owner financing one way to a seller or to your JV partner's lead. And the guy says no. I had this happen this morning, actually. The guy said no to owner financing. He's like, hey, I need 200K. I said, okay. I probably can't do that. I could probably come up, the highest would be 190. between 150 and 190. And then I pitched it a different way. I said, well, you have a mortgage of 150. What if I took the responsibility of making that payment for you, and I just gave you the rest in cash? And he's like, well, I could do that. I asked him owner financing, but then I pitched it a different way, and he's like, oh yeah, I could do that. I'd be fine with that. And it's just a different tool, right? A tool in that tool belt. I love that because it's so powerful.
Something also I really want to mention, and I think I remember one of you guys said this before. I think it was you, Ronnie. Something that you guys want to keep in mind, that 70% of my deals come from people that had pitched 4 or 6 months ago that weren't originally interested in one of these options. So you got to make sure you have a good follow-up system and follow up on the leads. A lot of investors will pitch it and never follow up again. So, I looked at that data, and literally 70% of people, I'll go ahead and pitch them the offer. And if they like it, great. If not, I'll just do a follow-up. And then if, once they sit on it a little while and they kind of digest it and listen to it and do a little research, and, hey, they tried selling it one way or on the MLS and it didn't work, then they come back to my option or whatever it may be. So
I'm going to interrupt you. What you just said was 70% of your deals come from an investor who's pitched it, or you've pitched it, and they said yes in the future. So that makes me think, and I completely agree with you. Not 70% of my stuff is, because my follow-up system's not as good as yours. What does follow-up even look like then? Are you calling them once a month? Are you emailing them? Are you like, what is this? Like, unpack that for us. Like, how do I follow up with a lead who they told me to go to hell yesterday? How do I follow up with them in 2 months, right? What does that look like?
So I will put it into, I use Podio, by the way. So my Podio system, I have it set up where it will do a follow-up on a tile in the dashboard. It'll say, okay, today's follow-up calls. Like, so say I pitched them today or whatever, they didn't like it. So I'll go ahead and set up long-term follow-up, and the system will go ahead and I'll ask them, hey, is it okay if I follow up with you? Or if they tell me to screw off or whatever, I'll if they say if it's okay to follow up, then I'll also put into a system where we can also send a text message. Hey, we spoke a couple months ago. Did you sell your property? Something like that. If they tell me to screw off, I won't put them in a text, but what we'll do is we'll go ahead and put them on a follow-up calendar, and my VA goes and follows up. Hey, we still like that property, did you sell the property? And just start engaging in the conversation. Sometimes we get them back, sometimes we don't. Now, if somebody says never call me again, just remove them. You got to make sure you DNC them, do not call list. So you kind of got to be careful of that. But it's really, you have to have a really good follow-up system. So we have today's calls, and if they miss it, say they're busy, like, we're because we work closest to the money, we have a deal closing or something, and they don't get today's calls, it'll go into past due calls, and my VA knows to go through and follow up with those calls. So that's kind of how our system works.
That's awesome. Guys, if you can unlock this, I think when we talked, I didn't realize how simple it could actually be. Right. I think a lot of us, and Marty, I'd love to hear your thoughts, think it's this crazy complicated thing. You know what I'm saying? Like, I thought that for so long. And I remember when we sat down, I don't know, maybe a year ago, I don't know, 6 months, I don't even remember. And you're like, this is what it is. And getting it set up, it was awesome. But then it was like, wait, you've only got like 20 messages that go out. You know what I'm saying? Like, realizing how simple it is, guys. I don't overcomplicate it. It's just a matter of touching base with them. Marty, what do you think?
Yeah, no, and Mark, this is the power of networking. To talk about Mark and Ronnie's point, I met these two guys through networking, right? Through a mastermind, but you still got to be alive to network through a mastermind. But yeah, Podio, it's been a fantastic part of our business. I will say it's a mindset shift that the follow-up game is important, but I can tell you it is critical. For 2022, guys, it should be your follow-up game. It should be on point for 2022. Because if you really want to scale, or if you want this thing to be something where, you can make 6 figures in wholesaling or real estate investing, then it's got to be through follow-up. So absolutely, Podio has been a huge help. There's a ton of videos on Podio on YouTube on how to do that. But yeah, absolutely get that down or I shouldn't even say Podio, a CRM of any kind that will be set up where you can auto drip and consistently without you having to do it. Someone or systems are going to then communicate with that seller, just to, knock on their door again and say, hey, just want to say hi. If you decide to sell again, let me know. I'm still interested, right? And you'd be surprised at how many people 6, 9, 12 months later reach back out and tell you know what, I am ready to sell, right? I am ready now. So someone might have just had a bad day, guys. When you're talking to them, they might have just had a bad day. You go, I'll never sell this house. And then how come 3 months then that point they're selling to somebody, right? It happens all the time. Remember, sellers are liars, and you just got to make sure you're following up with them and let them know that you're there to help them, and you just got to be there. And sometimes it's luck, but sometimes, and a lot of times, it's because you have a system in place.
That's right. I really like that. And I think one of the things that's so simple that even on my calls that people have been watching me do is I literally will just tell them what I want, right? So many people don't communicate what they want to do, right? Like, hey, seller, are you willing to do this? I want this, right? Like, this is what I want. Like, if we do owner financing, this is why I'm doing that. Like, I want blank. Are you open to that? And just when you tell the world what you want, I know this is so simple, but a lot of times we beat around the bush, right? We're not direct. And there's a way of just being so direct of, hey guys, I want to buy a house this week before Christmas, right? I'm calling around right now on Tuesday before Christmas because I want to buy a house and I want to get set up for 2022. Are you guys wanting to sell? And just being super direct, I think it's powerful. So, all right, we're coming into the last 10 minutes. Final thoughts, Mark.
Well, I just want to say something real quick. Can you guys hear me? Whoops. One thing I do want to say, if anybody wants to learn about list polling and like setting up call systems and pulling data, highly recommend connecting to Ronnie. Ronnie is he's helped a lot of people in our masterminds of setting this up. And if you want to reach out, if you're listening to our podcast, whatever podcast you're listening to, if you go to the description, it should have our bios and our links there. If you're listening on Facebook, you can just send us a message there, or on YouTube. So I'd highly recommend it. Same with Marty. Marty's, I've asked Marty a couple questions, and he's helped me out with, certain platforms on that. So highly recommend reaching out to these gentlemen. But I thought it was a good system today, good call. And, if you guys have any other questions or anything else that you guys want to talk or have us talk about, just send us a message. We'll be open to it. But it was a great, and, if I don't talk to everybody, have a great Christmas.
Absolutely. Marty, you want to leave anybody with any final thoughts?
Yeah. I'm going to tell you, you got to write down your goals. I know Mark's a little different, but guess what? Mark's retired. So that's his business, and he's good now. So
hey, I think goals are good. I just have a bad taste, but I totally agree with you guys. And I'm right behind you on that one, Marty.
You don't have to explain. You've done well here, but the reality is, guys, write down your goals. 2022, write them down now, so that by 2022, when it starts, you're already making strides on them, right? You don't want to be like thinking and I'm going to do this. No, have it down, have a game plan. Don't go crazy on thinking, you're just dreaming, right? We don't want to dream. We want to plan. So when you're writing your goals, have a real plan, how you're going to do it, right? And start to really get it down and get it going, because it's right there in front of you. So that's what I'm going to leave you with.
I love that. And I think on the goal side, a really realistic way, a lot of us think we can do more than what we can actually do in 12 months, but less of what we could actually do in 5 years. Right. And so when you're looking at your current goal, I love the idea of just saying, what did I do in the past? Right. What did I do the past 12 months? Right. And if you have nothing, if you have absolutely no, if you're brand new, then let your goal be, I'm going to be consistent for blank and see how much I can accomplish, right? And then when you set up your goal next time, Say, okay, what did I accomplish? Okay, I want to be there. I want to be way the heck up there. But what would be the next step? What's 10% better than my last best? And write that up, and it becomes a realistic. That way, when you say something, it happens, right? And it builds confidence rather than feeling like it's always out there. Just do better than what you did before. And so I love that. I think as a final thought for everyone, as you guys are getting ready for Christmas, is this stuff is simpler than you think it needs to be. It's simpler than it needs to be. Focus on one thing and just run after it. If it's cold calling, focus on building out a cold calling process, start to finish. And just do that, right? Like just focus that out. If you want to get into texting, if you want to do driving for dollars, don't frustrate yourself by doing multiple things at the same time. Instead, just pick one. If you want to build relationships with people, build relationships. If you want to cold call, do cold calling. If you want to do texting, do texting. If you want to do direct mail, do direct mail. They all work, right? What doesn't work is when you're hopping around and you're not committed. And so I would say, as you're finding deals for 2022, pick a source: seller direct, wholesalers, realtors, working with relationships, being the bird dog, whatever that may be. Just stay focused, figure out what it is, and set the trend. And I really believe if you'll do that and you'll be consistent, it'll change your life, right? Even 1 hour a day of the exact same activity every day, and you're going to have stuff that you wouldn't have done before. 2 hours a day, 3 hours a day. It's hard stuff, but the more we can get consistent and go after these, I think we can win. So to wrap up, we come here every Tuesday. We're here for Real Estate Power Play. Our podcast is live on any of your podcast providers. So you can go to the podcast and download it, iTunes or any of the others. We're also on YouTube, fully edited on YouTube. And then if you want to reach out to us, whether it's JV deals, what that looks like, reach out to us directly. Facebook, the groups. We want to help you. We want to answer your questions. We want to connect with you. Anybody, I think, that's connected with any of us on Facebook or whatever, we are all very engaging. We will interact. We want to help you guys. So until next week, have a Merry Christmas, and we'll see you before the new year.
Take care, guys.
Bye.
This has been another episode of Real Estate Power Play, guiding real estate entrepreneurs to a brighter future. If you liked what you heard, consider subscribing wherever you listen to your podcast, or follow us on YouTube at Real Estate Power Play.